Welcome to the future of factory automation.
This program is a broadcast of a Japanese podcast that has been translated into English using Notebook LM.
And today, we're jumping into a really interesting chat between two pros in the factory automation world.
Yeah, they're talking about how they actually stay up to date. It's a field that changes, well, pretty fast.
Right. So if you're listening and trying to figure out how to keep your knowledge current or maybe find some new information sources yourself, this is definitely for you.
Our goal here is basically to pull out the key takeaways, the sort of surprising bits about how these experts actually learn and stay informed.
Okay, so where do they start? What's the first big idea?
Well, right off the bat, one of them brings up this philosophy of not refusing AO, basically accepting all business inquiries that come their way.
Okay. That sounds
Yeah.
potentially overwhelming. Why do they do that? What's the thinking?
It's about casting a wide net, really.
Hmm.
The idea is that valuable information, maybe a new contact or a different perspective, can pop up in, unexpected places.
Ah, I see. So don't just stick to your usual channels. Be open.
Exactly. By talking to lots of different people, even if the initial inquiry seems a bit off topic, you expose yourself to more possibilities, more chances to learn something new.
And they felt that just being consistently engaged like that actually creates like a flow. More information starts coming to you.
That's the sense you get, yeah, a kind of positive feedback loop. They also touched on meeting people face to face.
Right, at events and exhibitions versus just reaching out online.
Yeah, one of them seemed to have more experience or maybe just find more value in those initial in-person connections made at industry shows.
And didn't they mention they actually met each other at one of those events in Nagoya?
They did, which is a great little anecdote, right? It really kind of grounds that idea of networking,
Yeah.
makes it tangible.
Definitely shows the power of just showing up sometimes. So after networking, where does the conversation go? Digital.
Yep, moves right into social media. And maybe surprisingly, they start with Twitter.
Twitter for factory automation intel. Okay, tell me more.
The feeling was that it's actually pretty helpful, responsive even. Like you can ask a question about a specific problem.
And people actually answer quickly.
Apparently so. It suggests there's a real community there willing to share knowledge pretty openly.
Yeah.
Quick exchange of info.
Interesting. Okay, what about the other big professional network, LinkedIn? They mentioned that too, right?
They did, yeah. We refer to it as AA, but clearly talking about LinkedIn. Their take on it was a bit different, though.
How so?
More for passively receiving information, less active back and forth maybe, but really strong for international news and updates.
Ah, okay. So if you want to know what's happening globally in automation.
LinkedIn is apparently a good place to watch. They said new information tends to pop up there quite fast.
But they did flag the language issue, right? Since it's mostly English.
Absolutely. That's a key point. It's a barrier if English isn't your first language, which raises questions about, equal access to information globally.
True. Did they say anything positive about connecting, though?
Yeah, they mentioned it's pretty easy to connect with people, especially if you sort of already know them or maybe met them at an event. Shared context helps.
Got it. So a mix of active stuff like networking and Twitter and more passive intake from LinkedIn. What about like old school media? Magazines, newspapers?
They definitely covered that. Talked about reading manufacturing-focused magazines, AN.
And they still find value there, even the experts.
Yeah, one speaker mentioned enjoying going back to fundamentals. Like semiconductor issues seem to be a recurring theme they find interesting to revisit.
Keeps the foundation strong, I guess. What else?
Then there's the automation newspaper. And get this, it's a physical newspaper.
Wow. Okay. In this day and age, a printed paper just for automation.
Seems so. It suggests there's still an audience for that. Maybe people who want something focused away from digital distractions. Allows for deeper reading, perhaps.
That's fascinating. Did they mention what's in it?
Yes, they highlighted a specific section. The F Industry Bulletin Board, FI.
F Industry Bulletin Board. What's that about?
That's where they feature news on, like new products coming out, other industry developments, keeping people briefed.
And they actually use this info actively, right? There was an anecdote.
Yeah, great. One of the speakers is actually arranging for someone from the automation newspaper to come and give a presentation at their study group, the FS ISHU.
Now that's taking your information source seriously, really leveraging it.
Totally. Shows a commitment to not just reading it, but sharing those insights. They also mentioned how they get it one receives it as a sponsor benefit.
Ah, okay. Any idea on cost for regular folks?
They threw out a number, maybe around 500 yen, but they weren't totally sure. Gives you a rough idea of its perceived value, though.
Okay, so industry news covered. What about the really deep technical stuff?
They brought up Interface Magazine, another publication.
Interface? I think I've heard of that one. More IT focused.
Seems like it leans that way, or at least covers topics that bridge FA and IT.
Yeah.
Interestingly, one speaker owns copies, but admitted they don't always, read it cover to cover.
Why not? Too dense.
Possibly. The bigger point was a desire to read it more, to kind of close the knowledge gap they feel exists between factory automation pros and pure IT folks.
That makes a lot of sense. That convergence is huge right now.
Exactly. And the speaker was quite open about feeling like they only really understand a small fraction, maybe 10% of the content currently.
That's honest. And probably relatable for a lot of people trying to learn adjacent fields. It highlights that constant need to upskill.
Definitely. The aspiration is clear.
Oh.
Get a better handle on the IT concepts that are becoming really relevant to factory automation. They did say Interface gets into some pretty specialized areas.
So not light reading. Do they subscribe or?
It sounded more like they buy specific issues, selectively. When a topic seems particularly relevant to what they need to learn right then.
A strategic approach. Makes sense, given how much information's out there. Focus on what's most useful now.
Precisely. It reflects that need for efficiency. And from there, the conversation kind of pivoted towards the future.
Ah, the crystal ball gazing. What trends are they seeing? What skills will be needed?
They got into the future of control system design. Shoje.
Okay, what's the prediction? Good news? Bad news?
Potentially challenging news for traditional roles. They floated the idea that classic control design jobs might actually decrease.
Why? What's driving that?
Increasing automation of the automation design process, essentially. They mentioned Beckhoff's MX system as something that could reduce the need for manual wiring design.
Okay, hardware becoming smarter, needing less explicit design work. What about software?
AI got to mention there, too.
Yeah.
The potential for AI to take over some aspects of software development in this space.
So if the systems are doing more of the wiring and coding, what happens to the designers?
Well, the thinking is that new roles related to managing and implementing these more automated systems will emerge.
But the skills required might be different.
Exactly. And that could potentially lead to salary pressure on the more traditional control design roles. It's a significant potential shift.
Yeah, that's definitely something for people in the field to think about. What are the alternative paths then? Growth areas.
They pointed towards simulation skills being increasingly important and perhaps unsurprisingly, IT skills.
Like what specifically within IT?
Things like data analysis, understanding IoT principles, networking.
Yeah.
Basically, the skills needed to handle the data and connectivity aspects of modern automation.
So control designers might need to become more IT savvy. Is that the message?
It's presented more as a potential direction. Not like everyone must become an IT expert tomorrow, but it's a strong suggestion for a growth path.
Okay, so it's an option, a way to future-proof your career, maybe.
Kind of. They stress that just generally staying informed about IT trends is probably beneficial, whatever your specific role evolves into.
But it's tough, right? Keeping up.
Oh, yeah. They acknowledge the pace of change is incredibly fast. It's a real challenge for control design professionals specifically to stay on top of everything.
So you need to be grounded in the core stuff, but also keep scanning that IT horizon.
That seems to be the takeaway. It's a balancing act. Their whole conversation really gives you a snapshot of that constant learning process in factory automation.
Okay, so let's pull this all together. Summarizing what we heard, it's really a mix of strategies, isn't it?
Definitely. There's the active side, building connections through networking, being open to all inquiries, using Twitter for quick Q&A.
Right, and then the more maybe passive or curated side, like using LinkedIn for global trends, reading specific industry papers like the automation newspaper.
And dipping into deeper technical resources like Interface Magazine when needed. It's not just one thing.
It's a whole toolkit. And these insights, they're valuable for pretty much anyone trying to navigate this field, right? Not just engineers.
Absolutely. Whether you're deep in the tech or just trying to understand the industry shifts, this conversation shows the value of combining that active engagement with, strategic information consumption.
Yeah.
Both broad awareness and deep dives.
Just thinking about all this, the merging of automation and IT, the changing skills, here's something for you, our listener, to consider. What proactive steps can you take starting now to make sure you stay ahead of the curve in this really dynamic landscape?